Hello, this is Dr. Flight. Hope you're doing well today. We're going to continue to walk through the consumer's decision-making process. This is a multi-step process, and we've looked at the first couple stages or steps of it or phases. And in this video, we're going to look at the last three steps and kind of go from there. So if you'll remember, the 5 steps include need recognition and information search. And in this video, we'll talk a little bit about alternative selection, purchase, and use, and then very importantly, post-purchase feelings and affirmation and behaviors. So we'll jump right into it. Step number 3 then of this process is evaluating the alternatives. Now, presumably there are multiple solutions to the need that has been identified. And so as you consider these multiple solutions, what we want to be able to do is compare and contrast one solution with another. So we might think of this as if we have multiple products that might satisfy our need, or multiple brands that offer a product in the same product category, we need to have a way of identifying which ones are preferred over others. And then we ultimately narrow that down and make a decision. So whether we consciously do it or not, typically when we make a purchase decision, we think of what's important in that product and call this evaluation criteria. So it's a set of salient or important attributes about a particular product. And again, we use these features of the product to compare and contrast different options that we see in the marketplace. Very importantly, there's a term that you need to know, and it's called a determinant attribute. This is actually a term that we use later on when we develop products and when we do product positioning with perceptual maps. But a determinant attribute is a very specific feature which is ultimately used to make the final decision. So there may be, when you go to buy a car, for instance, we have an example here, there may be a number of different features on the car: color, miles per gallon, type of wheels it has, and so on and so forth. There's probably 100 different features that you could compare and contrast one car to another based upon. However, when you actually go to buy the product, buy the car, for instance, what's actually going to drive you to buy it will be actually a very limited number of actual features, and that's why we call them a determinant attribute. They determine whether the consumer will buy the product or not, and they tend to be the very most important features or aspects of the purchase decision. So in this case, when you're buying a car, price is clearly a very important feature. Price is often a very big deal. Quality is also another one that is there. Here's one though: availability. Simply having the car available for you to access. Are they sold out? Or do they have that car that you want at the dealership that you're looking at? Is it even available? And here's another one: what if you have a family and you need five seats? Then that is a feature that you're not willing to compromise on, and it has to have that feature. And if it doesn't, then you won't buy it at all. Okay, so determinant attributes then rise in importance to the consumer to the point that having them or not having them will make or break the sale for you. So that's something that we should need to know. Also, as we evaluate criteria and we look at these determinant attributes, one of the ideas is some criteria are more important than others. As I mentioned, these determinant attributes, there's one example of that. So how do people choose between different options? Well, one way they do it is they form what's called a decision rule. So once we have a set of options or set of solutions, or maybe we have a narrow set of products that we're looking at, we might call that what's called an evoked set, sometimes a decision set or even a selection set. So in other words, once you've narrowed down your focus to a handful of potential solutions, then sometimes we use decision rules to order in place of, like best to least, those options. So that's like a decision rule process that we might go through. So one option is to, go with your gut. One option is to use past experience, or another option is to form some type of a decision-making rule in order for you to decide which product you want the most. And so that's what a decision rule is about, and there's a special name for that, or there's a special name for a type of rule called a compensatory decision rule, where we give value to products that have the features that we want the most. Okay, so again, buyers use this kind of mechanism to choose one product over another by making attribute trade-offs. Okay, so here's a chart. We have Post, Cheerios, and Kashi cereal, and the customer has rated this chart based on taste, or these products based on taste, calories, natural or organic claims, and price. And they've assigned a value to each one of these. So Cheerios taste the best, apparently. It's also priced the best to them. So it's probably priced lower because it's the best. Post, in their perception, is more expensive, so their price score is lower. Kashi is perceived as the most organic, so they score the highest in that category. And then calories is kind of a mix, and it's pretty even across all three, between 8 and 9. So we have 4 different criteria that are being evaluated, and then each brand has a score associated with each one of those criteria. And what's happened is this customer has kind of taken those scores and created an average to identify which overall product they would prefer the most. So this is a compensatory decision rule process, and this is called multi-attribute because there are multiple criteria: taste, calories, organic, and price. Okay, so you can ask the question, if the customer makes a decision using this rule system, which cereal would they choose? And you likely say Cheerios because it scores the highest. Now, where this could deviate is when somebody puts more emphasis on one criteria than another. So in other words, you may not take all 4 of these as equally important. You may favor one of the criteria over another. So if a consumer, for instance, is really, really focused on the natural and organic claims of a cereal, then they probably won't choose Cheerios, right? Even though Cheerios scored higher overall, it actually scored the lowest in that category. And if that rule or that criteria was the most important to them, then they would compensate for the organic claim score, and they'd put more weight on it, and they'd likely choose Kashi as the option for that decision. So think about this evaluation of alternative stage as one. It can be fairly complex, where you're kind of weighing the pros and cons of the options that you found during the search process, and you're beginning to form a conclusion. So once we emerge from this stage, what should happen is you have a choice. You've chosen the product that you want, and next is sometimes the most difficult stage, is actually making a purchase decision, right? Actually going through and making a purchase. So we talk about purchases and consumptions. One of the things we think about is having an exchange take place. So from a marketing perspective, in other words, we want to facilitate the exchange whereby a customer can come in, exchange their money for the product, and a transition of ownership can take place. We also want to make sure that the customer is happy and that's a good experience and that they get what they expect to get. We've created a value proposition, and our goal is to make sure that that happens. So when we talk about exchanges specifically, there are a number of things that happen. One is in exchanges, buyers and sellers come together. So this is something that marketers need to work towards and facilitate so that this happens. Also, when exchange and a purchase happens, products have to be available and displayed for the customers to be able to enjoy them and purchase them. So there's a lot that we have to do in order to make the purchase happen, but consumers are coming into the marketplace, expecting these things. We enjoy communication between parties. So they have to tell us what they want as customers. We have to explain the benefits and the pros of our product so that they'd be excited about it. And again, as I mentioned, exchanges facilitate a transfer of ownership. So we can think of retail settings or maybe online stores as all venues where this happens. And from a marketer standpoint, we control a lot of this. But from a consumer standpoint, they're engaged with this process equally. They're coming to the market of their free will. They have a choice to either accept our offer or reject our offer. And that's a fundamental concept that we think of when we think of creating a purchase opportunity for the customer. Now, clearly, we have goals of increasing our consumption rates and increasing our sales. And so, we can have an effect on the process of purchase and an exchange to the degree where we want to increase conversion rates, or we want to have customers who are interested in our product convert to sales. There are a lot of cases where people may be excited about a product. They might even put it in their cart, but then before they check out, they abandon the cart or they decide they don't want to purchase. And we have to, again, find ways to motivate them to follow through with their intent and actually make a purchase. Again, sometimes it's a case where people would like to buy, but then at the last minute they get cold feet and they decide, I don't really want to spend my money. And so we need to look at ways that we can increase what's called the conversion rate, and that's when a shopper becomes a buyer, right? We can add value by increasing product lines. We can enhance customer service. And again, we can encourage people to follow through with their product purchases. And as a result, when we leave this process, the goals here in a post-purchase environment will be greater customer satisfaction, greater customer loyal, something called a minimized post-purchase cognitive dissonance, and greater engagement. So let's talk a little bit about this. And this is this last or fifth stage of the buyer process. After you buy a product, how do you feel about that purchase? Do you feel good? And these are all outcomes that we track as in marketing as very important. So when we think about like customer satisfaction, we want people to be happy because we want people to come back. Next time they buy this product, or the next time they have the need, right, for a product that we offer them, we want them to come straight to us because they had a good experience. So things that we can do to help that, one would be build realistic expectations. Don't oversell the product's benefits. Look to offer, real expectations that they can come to expect from us. Make sure that products are being used for the purpose that they're being used for, that people aren't buying products for reasons they shouldn't be, because the product won't function properly for them. Stand by and offer guarantees and warranties. Guarantees, warranties, money-back offers build confidence. And so if there's a failure in the product, you can remedy that, and the customer will actually come back and be happier because they were taken care of after a product failure. Continue to encourage dialogue and communication. So that builds confidence with the customer. The customer has the feeling that they can They can engage further after the sale, so that's a good thing. And then service after the sale, continuing a relationship and continue to develop a relationship with the customer grows satisfaction as well. So this is all post purchase, right? These are all things that we do to engage the customer after they've bought from us. Okay, so again, another aspect, we mentioned this concept called cognitive dissonance. Basically, the idea is, look, if there's a disconnect between how you want to feel and how you do feel, that gap or that difference is cognitive dissonance. It's an internal conflict that arises from an inconsistency between the belief that you should have and the belief that you feel, or the actual feeling that you realize. So let's say you buy a product and you're not sure you should have, or maybe you feel like you spent too much money and now you're having some post-purchase regret. Those types of things are, cases where you're not sure of the appropriateness of the purchase and whether it was the right thing for you to have done. Cognitive dissonance happens again when you have a high dollar purchase, products that you don't buy very often and you're not familiar very much of, and you have to do a lot of research, and maybe you're not going to buy this product again for another 10 years. Did you make the right choice? Did you do it? Is this a risky product? Is this a new technology? Is this a product we're not sure will work? After you purchase the product, you may be less likely to be satisfied. And there might be, again, this internal inconsistency with what you got versus what you wanted. And that's what we want to help reduce. So again, like warranties and guarantees, we can offer return policies where customers, if they're not happy, they can bring the product back. And that helps reduce this feeling of, I didn't get what I wanted, or maybe I shouldn't have bought this product. Again, brand elements also work as well. So if you have a very strong brand, for instance, that brand creates confidence and security, which is something that's built up over time, and it reduces cognitive dissonance. So think of that term and kind of post-purchase regret. Okay, I mentioned a third element here, customer loyalty. Loyalty in a nutshell is when customer buys your product and then they come back to buy again, or also they fail to go to a competitor. So in other words, switching behaviors are something that we would look at as a negative type of a thing that's associated with buying the product. We want to engage in loyalty. In marketing, we have what's called customer relationship management, which is a program that where we track customer behavior and we try to identify customers who are likely to come back and likely to spend with us. And it's a program generally focused around tracking data and customer loyalty. So the more loyal a customer is, the more profitable they are, and the less likely they are to leave, which means we lower our acquisition costs and things like that. So loyal customers are extremely profitable for the firm. Subscribers who keep coming back make money, so make money for the company. So that's a big outcome that happens post-purchase. Okay. Other things that would endear us to this post-purchase process or post-purchase phase of the decision-making process is what the customer actually does when they buy the product. And one of the things we want them to do is engage with us. We also want what's called positive word of mouth. So in other words, somebody has a good experience, we want them to tell others about it. So we want brand champions, brand ambassadors, people who have bought our product but then are willing to express positive features about our product to others after they buy it. So personal blogs, Twitters, corporate websites, digital monitoring is something that we do where, if somebody speaks highly of our brand, if we can catch that and capture that, we can thank them. Brand ambassadors, as I've mentioned, influencers, hiring influencers to propagate your brand after purchase might be something that we can do as well. So this is a strategy where we want to generate goodwill, and we want to manage that expectation of the customer and kind of what they will actually do after the purchase, beyond just simply rebuying with us, but also building our fan base, our customer base with people that they associate with as well. Okay, so this is again, it's a customer relationship type of a thing. We're building over time, and it's a post-purchase element. Okay, so let's take a review then. And remember, look at these questions, think about these, write them down, pause on this screen so that you can think about these for possible test questions. All right, so know what a determinant attribute is. When you have features of a product that are important, you make a decision on buying a product, you usually focus on one of the determinant attributes. We talked about compensatory decision-making rules. So when you're deciding between options, you might score and then weigh those options to get a global score. It tells you which one to buy. That's a compensatory decision rule. Okay, talked about the elements of an exchange, what exchange happens, and we talked about conversion rates as a result of people not abandoning their carts and being motivated to go from wanting to buy to actually buying. That's a conversion. Okay, we talked about 4 post-purchase attitudes or expressions that happen: satisfaction, customer satisfaction, loyalty, cognitive dissonance, which is this difference between kind of emotions of an ideal state versus a current state, and then engagement. Okay, so last but not least, how do firms enhance post-purchase outcomes? We build with customer relationship marketing. We also do engagement through social media and things like that. Building relationships at the end of the day is what we do to encourage post-purchase behavior that we want to see. Okay, so here, this was fairly quick. We covered the last 3 elements or stages of the decision-making process. Let me know if you have any questions, and enjoy the day.